From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Thank you for listening to the Wildcast podcast. I'm Justin Spears here with Michael Lev. It's the last one before Christmas, last one before the Valero Alamo Bowl, I believe. We're going to be previewing the Alamo Bowl, talking about that matchup, and also talking all things Arizona football. We got a handful of mailbag questions, which we will be answering later on in the podcast. Appreciate all of you Arizona football fans who participate in that every single week. You can find the Wildcast podcast on Apple, Spotify, other podcasting platforms. You can also subscribe, rate, and review. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the podcast. And for all the coverage of the Alamo Bowl and also Arizona basketball and a lot of things happening in the state of Arizona, download the Wildcaster app off the App Store and Google Play.
Did you stay up for that basketball game
I did.
The other day against Alabama?
I did. And as soon as the game ended, I went to bed because I had to wake up early for radio. It was a late one.
It was a really late one. That game ended at about 11:30, maybe even late, maybe after that.
It was.
What'd you think?
Really good win for Arizona. I think that Alabama is a lot better than the record shows. They went into that game, I think it was like 6-4.
Yeah.
But you look at the stretch of games that they're on right now. They got 3 games against top 10 teams between Purdue and Creighton, and then they just played Arizona. So it was a tough stretch for Alabama. They're an NCAA tournament team. I think that that was a team that was capable of going to the Sweet 16. Alabama's a lot better than their record shows. And the environment, the kind of style of game, it felt like an NCAA tournament game. The game against Purdue certainly felt like an NCAA tournament game. So really good battles for Arizona. You either win or you learn.
Yeah.
Is that what we talked about in the last podcast? Or at least you brought it up, Lev? And Arizona learned from their...
I think they won and they learned in that one. I think Oklahoma's... I'm sorry, Oklahoma.
We're in
the Alamo Bowl. The Alabama basketball, they're not ranked. But when you look at that team, that looks like a tournament team.
They're good.
Right, in terms of their talent. They're really long, really athletic. I mean, they have a certain style of play, and people are sort of clapping back at me like, oh, if you look at the advanced stats, they don't really play any faster than Arizona does. But they chuck up a lot of threes. Like
8 for 40.
They were forcing tempo in that game, and I think the way that Seth Greenberg put it in one of his little hits, either during the first half or at halftime, was Arizona kind of got seduced by the tempo a little bit, and I think got out of their offense. I saw that kind of late in the going too, when they kind of got on a roll a little bit and they started firing away. It's like it's very easy to get sort of sucked up into whatever the other team's doing. I think for Arizona, they have a good system and style, and they just need to stick with that.
Yeah.
No matter who the opponent is.
Yeah.
Don't let those external factors influence the way you play.
And give credit to Alabama, too. I mean, they were kind of taking it to Arizona at first, especially on the boards, really crashing and making it difficult for Arizona. But then Arizona figured out a way to generate turnovers and get out into the open court. And you look at the turnovers, Lev, and Arizona... they had more turnovers than Alabama, just by a couple, though. But you look at points off of turnovers. That's where it was big time. It was 27-8, I believe, was the disparity. Yeah. So Arizona really made the turnovers count in their favor, and they were able to get out into a run. And the avalanche that the Wildcats play with when under Tommy Lloyd, when it's fast and free flowing and they're attacking the rim. See, you look at Tommy Lloyd. And I've heard people compare it, and I've even compared it to a little bit of what Steve Kerr is running with the Golden State Warriors. But Warriors thrive off of 3-pointers. The one thing that stands out about Tommy Lloyd and the Arizona team is that they cut a lot. They go to the basket a lot, and they get a lot of easy buckets. And it's very simple. Simple works for Arizona. And then, of course, free throw shooting could always be a little bit improved, especially Umar Ballo. But he was still 6 for 10. So still making his free throws, but that's a work in progress. But I still think it was a really good win for Arizona, and now they got a tough Florida Atlantic team that went to the Final Four last year. Dusty May's a really good coach, and they're now number 14 in college basketball, and they have a a 7-1 center that could really match up with Umar Bala, who is their best player. So it's going to be another interesting front court battle for Arizona. But the Wildcats should be able to win this game in Vegas.
So on that same day, that was also early signing day. Some of our colleagues, like Brian Peterson and Jason Shear, are covering both, early signing day and a 9:10 p.m. tip-off basketball game up in Phoenix. Kudos to them for putting in the work. It was an interesting... let me backtrack. I don't know if it was an interesting signing day. I think the results of signing day for Arizona were interesting in that they weren't that highly ranked, right?
No.
At the end of the day. They didn't flip any guys on the last day. There weren't a lot of huge surprises. So how should we look at this signing class in your estimation?
Well, wait and see. I mean, we still need to see how productive they're going to be in 2024 or heck, even 2025. Because Arizona is in such a good position as a program to where they don't need to bring in these highly touted players who have all these great offers and are highly ranked and all that, because the guys that they brought in are not going to start, really. I honestly, I would be very shocked. Even the transfer portal guys like Chuba Mai, the big defensive tackle from UC Davis,
not going to start.
The Wildcats are expecting Bill Norton to come back.
He'll be Bill Norton's backup.
So, and then you look at the DBs in Jordan Shaw and Jack Luttrell, however you pronounce it. These are players who have played 1 year of college ball. They're going to come in. They're just going to be the dollar package guys. And then the defensive backs that they have coming back, and it's literally everybody between Traden Stukes, Ephesians Pricesock, Takario Davis, and then the safety tandem of Dalton Johnson and Gunnar Maldonado. These are all going to be complementary players. And then when the 2022 recruiting class is draft eligible and you're expecting to lose a few guys and some guys are out of eligibility, you have this next wave of players who have already been in your system for a year or two, and you just rinse, wash, and repeat. And now Jed Fish and the recruiting staff, now that they have all the players in place, they just kind of have a system that they're going to be relying on. And it's not really relying on the transfer portal. It's bringing in really good high school football players, and then you can be selective in the transfer portal and just kind of plug holes.
Yes, that's what I wrote about my latest column that you can find on Tucson.com. The Wildcaster app. We have an Arizona Daily Star app that's really nice and clean and easy to use. So you can check that piece out. I would say, playing devil's advocate, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, these teams are in great shape too. But they also, and Georgia, they always bring in 4 and 5 star guys. So why shouldn't Arizona be doing that? I think it's a legit question.
But the portal too. How many of these guys are entering the portal after a year?
Who are leaving? No, it's a great point. They've done a great job at player retention. None of the guys who are leaving the team this year are what you call. The closest thing to a starter is Daniel Hamuli, and he kind of lost his starting job over the course of the season.
Yeah, one play at Mississippi State lost his job.
That was kind of a killer. It was kind of a revolving door at that middle linebacker spot. But when I look at this class, it's not a big class. Okay, so that's one factor that will hurt the grade. Like
20
the
players.
More players, yes, 20 total players. That's including 3 transfers.
Yeah,
talking about the overall composite score. So that will hurt your overall if you don't have quite as many players, and they didn't need quite as many players. If you look at the average grade per 247 Sports of Arizona's players, the average grade is 86.44. The average grade for ASU is 86.45. Okay? But ASU is ranked 5th in the Big 12, and Arizona is ranked 11th in the Big 12 because ASU has 10 more players coming in.
Yeah.
And then I think 14 transfers in that group. So you have to look at it from that perspective. And I would add that Arizona's grade is brought down by the fact that they have a kicker. And by, even though he is a quote-unquote 5-star kicker, he's only a 3-star player, and he gets a grade of 81.
Yeah.
On the scale. Another thing that I would point out, 3 players from a school in Arizona that has not traditionally produced Division I players, okay? The next 2 lowest graded players on this list are Michael Watkins from Glendale Apollo, interior offensive lineman, and Adam Muhammad.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about Adam Muhammad's resume as a high school running back?
So there's only one player in Arizona high school football history who has more rushing touchdowns than him. His name is Bijan Robinson. You probably have heard of him. Plays for the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great rookie for the Falcons. Was drafted number 8 overall in this past NFL draft. Yeah, he's the only guy that's got more touchdowns than Adam Muhammad.
So I think what happens sometimes is when you get guys from what you wouldn't call traditional powerhouse type schools, the evaluators might not have seen them as often.
Yeah.
You know,
Even
they might not know the coaches. Like,
yeah.
I think as a result, like some of those guys get underrated. Like the 3 guys from Glendale Apollo are in the bottom 5 in 247's grading system.
Yeah.
You know, who are some of the guys in the bottom 5 in that 2022 class? Fellow by the name of Jacob Manu.
Yep.
He might have been in there, I think.
Was No Fafita in there?
No,
or because he was a quarterback?
No. I'll look it up right now. I think Ty Youngalale was in the bottom 5 in terms of the grades of that class.
Isaiah Ward, maybe?
Let's see. The bottom 5. Jermaine Wiggins, who has transferred. Isaiah Johnson, who's had some injury issues. Ty Youngalale. Jacob Reese, who also has had a health issue. Wendell Moe is the 5th lowest ranked player by 247 Sports in the 2022 class. Mainstay, starter at the left guard position, and he'll probably start another 2 years.
All Pac-12 guy, all Big 12 guy. Sorry.
Jacob Manu was the 7th lowest, in the class. And, just to show you how you think you know what you're getting on signing day, but maybe you don't. Of course, T-Mac was the highest. Number 2 is Rayshawn Luke.
Yeah.
Who I think we think is good, but he hasn't carved out like a consistent role here. Number 3, Kean Burnett. Still might blossom, but he's been behind Tanner McLaughlin. 4 was Ephesians Prysock. 5, Prysock's been great, obviously. Number 5 is Sterling Lane. Barely played this year.
Yeah.
So, do those rankings have value? Yes, of course they do. We don't know how to rank these players. It's kind of the only thing we have to go on, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
Yeah.
It is not the gospel. And I also think we need to give this coaching staff the benefit of the doubt because they have done a great job at evaluating talent over the last few years.
And developing.
Ding, ding, ding. The magic word. I didn't get into this in my column, Justin, because I just couldn't figure out a way to squeeze it in. But we've talked about it offline. The number of times that their coaches have to use the word developing, development since a certain player from Sal Point decided to decommit and sort of question Arizona's ability to develop him. Like if you played the development drinking game or whatever, you wouldn't be able to drive home from the press conference, right?
Nope. Every coach and players have also talked about it too. We've heard players say, if you want to become an NFL player, if you want to grow into the best player you want to be, then you got to come to Arizona. People have talked about development so much since the development word was first thrown out after a certain recruit, a 5-star player just up the road decommitted. And, I got to say, man, they have a point. I mean, they have been saying it maybe to, I guess, maybe rub some salt in the wound or maybe just kind of throw it out there. But they've developed the 2022 recruiting class. These guys are still underclassmen right now. This is only their 2nd year within the program. And think about how impactful these guys have been and how successful Arizona has been this year. I mean, they're 9-3. Those 3 losses by combined 16 total points. Arizona's on the outside looking in, like if the CFP were expanded this year, I mean, they're right there making the CFP. These guys are going to be in the CFP conversation going into next year. These are all 2nd-year players that they have developed and have made them superstar players.
So what's missing from this class? What is it lacking? I would say maybe defensive line is an area where I would have liked to have seen them bring in one or two more guys. They had some guys who were committed who didn't sign on Wednesday. They tried to address that a little bit through a junior college edition, through the transfer portal. I still think another edge rusher would help from the portal.
And don't get us wrong, losing the South Point guys, that was pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, the two guys that they
Rysham
lost were, those were strong side defensive ends, basically, right? Or guys who could have played on either side of the line. And it's tough. It happens sometimes. I think next year that's an area that they'll need to address, because if you kind of look at the cycle, the 22 class has got 2 more years, basically, most of those guys. So they're going to need to be replaced, and you can't just live off of that forever. I think if they have another really good year on the field and Jedfish sticks around, they have a chance to have some really some classes that can approach or even surpass the 22. So defensive line, I think, is one area, and I was kind of surprised they didn't have more Polynesian players in this class. I mean, that's been an area where they've really cleaned up the last couple of years, since Johnny Nansen and Jason Kafusi came on board, and not a lot in that area, this particular class. Maybe it's just maybe it's just one of those things where in this cycle, there weren't a lot of guys that fit that mold.
Now they will add 2 more Polynesian defensive linemen. They didn't sign during the early signing period, but they are expected to join the Wildcats next year. In Sefo Aquila from Oakland and Kaho Tuialamaka, another Tuialamaka making his way down to Tucson to play for the Wildcats. He's a defensive tackle from Mater Dei. So they got a couple more defensive linemen coming in. But Lev, there's also, in the leading up to spring ball, you may add another guy. There's always players who are constantly entering the transfer portal after bowl season.
Look at Taylor Upshaw.
I was just
Great
about to say.
Example.
Yeah. Well, and he transferred after spring ball, if I'm not mistaken, because he was at Colorado. So
no players from Hawaii in this class either, which is an area where they've recruited pretty well the last couple of years. I'm just looking at 247 Sports top recruits from Hawaii. Number 1 guy, Rustin Young, went to Michigan State. Preston I'm going to get in trouble trying to pronounce these names. Number 2 guy to Nebraska. Number 3 to Wisconsin. Number 4 to Michigan State. Number 5 to ASU. Number 6, a kid named Zayden Wallace, is not committed yet. He is a 6'5", 270-pound defensive lineman. Maybe someone Arizona might be interested in, but not a lot of guys from Hawaii.
They had Naziah Carvalho, but he decommitted.
Yeah.
But
so again, this might just be secular, know. It might just be this particular round of recruiting. It just didn't make sense for them, But those are just a couple areas, defensive line and Polynesian players, where I thought maybe they could have added a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than they did. But what they did add, a lot of exciting skill position players this year. We saw Jordan Washington in person. How would you describe that experience?
A sound. Not a word, a sound. That's the sound. That's how I describe it. Because this guy, whether he was catching it,
they were mostly receptions. They were all screen passes.
Quick slants, screens. They was all right, let's get the ball in his hands. Let's get him out in open space. And this guy made Compton High School look like a freshman football team. He was carving him up. I mean, I swear he had,
I think it was 7 catches and 4 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns, I think.
265 yards. It was
unreal.
It was insane. That game was so weird because they would literally have the ball for 1 or 2 plays and score a touchdown. Yes. And Compton was going 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like hold the ball for 10 minutes.
Time of possession,
maybe score, maybe
Compton.
not. Oh God, yeah. Was it 48 minutes? They probably had it for 40 of the 48. And then, of course, there's DeMond Williams, who is the top-ranked quarterback in the state of Arizona this year.
He's top-rated offensive
because
player.
Dylan Raiola transferred, right, to
yes.
when he transferred to a school in Georgia.
Yeah.
Before flipping from Georgia to Nebraska, whatever. I don't know. People, you do you. So as a result of him moving, DeMond was the top-ranked quarterback in the state.
Yep.
Right? And another one who, well, I'll let you comment on what Jedd Fisch said. Like, we have a certain, what do you say? We have a certain mold of quarterback that we
like certain body type or like we have a certain look that we want our quarterbacks to have. And I'm like, that is correct to some degree because Jaden Delora, athletic quarterback, can make some plays with his legs. Not that big, right? Not that big. Yeah. Noah Fafita, certainly not the tallest quarterback, but a very slithery player. Is very tough to bring down in the pocket, can use his legs when he wants to, but more of a pocket passer, can really kill you with his arm, can slice up a defense. And then you got Damon Williams coming in, who's 5'10", a speedster, used to run track at Chandler Basha High School, really fast quarterback, has I think just under 3,000 rushing yards, and also has thrown for over 10,000 yards at Basha. He is an incredible player, was a finalist for the Ed Doherty Award, which is the Arizona High School Football Heisman. As a matter of fact, 3 Wildcats were up for the Ed Doherty Award between him, Adam Muhammad, and Brandon Phelps, the receiver from American Leadership Academy. The all-time leading receiver in Arizona high school football. Yeah, like between him, Adam Muhammad, like people want to get mad that Keona Wilhite and Elijah Rushing aren't coming here, but you look at the in-state guys they have here, like it's a pretty interesting and talented group. But I digress. Going back to what we were talking about, Jedd Fisch says we have a certain look with our quarterbacks. And I'm like, yeah, they're all similar, but we forgot one guy, redheaded Brock Osweiler, Braden Dorman, who is number 17. And if you were wondering if Grant Gunnell still played for the Wildcats, no, that's not Grant Gunnell. That's Braden Dorman. He's a freshman from Colorado, was the Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year. I think he might be Colorado's all-time passing yards leader. Like he is. He does not fit that type. He's a big pocket passer. He's about 6'5". He's a tree. Yeah. So I don't know what was going on there. Jed was talking about that. I'm like, Braden Dorman doesn't look like that. No. But Damon Williams did nothing but win at Basha, and a two-way threat. I mean, I've heard him described as kind of a more athletic Noah Fafita. So, I mean, that would be a pretty good player. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's we'll see how things play out in that quarterback room over the next few years. There are always guys who end up transferring and whatnot at the quarterback position. But overall, Arizona has done a really good job of keeping its players. Yeah. And I think that's mainly because of the culture that Jed has created. I mean, it's a cliche, but like they've made it feel like a family. Yeah. Around there, and the coaches have stuck around. Like he hasn't had one change on his offensive coaching staff since he's been here. That's crazy. Defense has had some turnover, but some of that was, it's not like Don Brown was planning to leave after his first year here. Certainly would have been interesting if he had stayed. Yeah. How things might have been different. They were actually pretty decent on defense in 2021. Yeah. Don Brown, I think, doesn't get enough credit. The offense put them in a bind. Yeah. A lot that season. Yeah, they didn't have too many playmakers on that side of the ball. It seemed like it was screen passes to Stanley Berryhill essentially every play. But how many screen passes got intercepted that season? And returned for a touchdown. Return for a touchdown, I swear. Every quarterback had that happen to them, right? Every quarterback said Jamari Joyner. All right, so let's go to the Twitter mailbag before we talk about this game coming up here in San Antonio. Appreciate you guys for submitting your questions. Our first question comes from Boog. Boog asks, how important is it for Arizona to get Jonah Coleman and DJ Williams going in the Alamo Bowl? It's very important to establish the run game because then it's going to open up things for Noah Fafita and T-Mac and people, Oklahoma and a lot of people, that's what people are talking about. Noah Fafita, the job that he's done since taking over as QB1. But a big part of this Arizona team is their ability to use their running backs. All of them are going to be healthy. Michael Wiley, who needs tickets, by the way. Hit him up if you're interested in buying some tickets for Michael Wiley's family. Let him know. But him being healthy and playing in this game, Jonah Coleman, who's had a spectacular season and leads the Wildcats in rushing and is very hard to bring out, is one of the top running backs in the country in yards per carry after contact. And then you got the big truck and DJ Williams, who is playing his last collegiate game. So, yeah, very important to establish the run game. And I think also with the change at offensive line, Lev, with Jordan Morgan opting out of the bowl game and getting ready for the NFL draft, we're going to be seeing someone at left tackle. You know, the most recent depth chart had Joseph Bourgeon at left tackle. They're going to be training him. Jonas Avianea, who moved from right guard to right tackle at the start of the season. He's been kind of bouncing around on that right side. They're going to get him some reps at left tackle, and they're also putting the freshman right guard, Raymond Polito, out there as well. So they're moving some things around, but I think with a new combination of offensive linemen, maybe you want to play downhill at first, establish yourself as an offensive line, and then move on from there.
I'll give you another reason why they might want to do that. Oklahoma's second in the nation in interceptions as a defense.
That's a good call.
19 picks behind only Liberty, which had 21, so the most among Power 5 schools. Noah Fafita has not turned the ball over very much. I don't think he's had more than one interception in any game. His 5, I think, for the entire season, and 23 touchdowns. So really good ratio there. But, sometimes you get caught up in the excitement of the moment. I would love to see them come out and establish the run game.
Yep.
I don't know if Jed Fish is going to do it because he usually doesn't. He's an NFL, style play caller, and they're going to run the ball 45% of the time and pass it 55, 60% of the time. I'd love to see some screens. Like their screen game was on point. The Utah game and the ASU game, and Michael Wiley scored on kind of the identical play. Just to opposite sides of the field, and it was so well orchestrated, getting all the offensive linemen and wide receivers and tight ends involved and blocking those downfield. Those are like extensions of the run game. So yeah. I'd love to see them kind of get that part of their game going early on in that one.
This one comes from AZCat59. Looking at the depth chart, are they really going to start Delora? They haven't changed the depth chart.
Don't look at the depth chart.
Outside
that would
of
be
left
my
tackle.
Reminder. Yes.
They're not starting Dayton Delora.
No.
All right.
Maybe they'll update it before the Alamo Bowl.
Maybe
that would be nice. I mean, we all know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see for yourselves. Happy to put one out there if they don't put a real one.
Yeah.
I'll put that out on X/Twitter.
Yeah.
If they don't update it.
Here's what you can put on Twitter, Lev. Nothing has changed. Noah Fafita started. All right. This one comes from Zona. Curious what your thoughts are about Chip Kelly's idea of keeping geographically aligned conferences. Aligned conferences for all other sports. Had a mental cramp there. And just making standalone football conferences. Makes a lot of sense.
Heck yeah, it does. I think we've talked about that idea in the past, right? You kind of do like 64 teams. There's roughly that number in
a commissioner
in the group of 5 or whatever we're calling in the Power 5 or Power 4 or whatever we're calling it these days. And you have geographical divisions, and you just sort of separate football from the rest. I think that would be the best way to go. I could see that happening several years from now. It's just complicated in a lot of ways because, like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you separate one sport from the others under the same umbrella of the University of Arizona?
Yeah.
It would be difficult, but I think it would be the best thing for the, college athletic industrial complex to do that. Because, like, it really is dumb. It is truly dumb that USC's swimming team is going up against, Rutgers and
Illinois.
Penn State. Football, you play 12 regular season games, 5 or 6 road games. You're talking about 3 or 4 trips, right? It's one game, and it's not – I think it will take a toll physically on these guys, but it's not that bad. these other sports, like you have way more games and you have midweek games. It's like, how do you do that?
Think about baseball and
does that
softball.
Make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense for the student athletes?
No, it does not.
It really doesn't. So it would definitely be for the betterment of all parties to do something like that. I would love to see it. The problem is, it's really hard to get any sort of consensus in college sports, especially college football, because everyone's just kind of out for themselves. These conferences are all kind of out for themselves. I mean, look at Florida State.
Yeah.
Right now, trying to break off from the ACC.
They're entering
even though they signed the papers.
Yeah.
To be locked in there, and now they're like, whoa, hey, this isn't fair. The conferences are out for themselves. The schools are out for themselves. All the realignment movement. I mean, at the end of the day, like Arizona kind of had to do what was best for Arizona.
Yeah.
And no one blamed them for that either.
Yeah. And honestly, Chip Kelly's logical plan, it sounds great, but this should have been proposed years ago. You guys saw the direction in which things were going, and it's like when people were talking about conference realignment and teams possibly moving on and changing college sports and the landscape, and it's all football driven, you guys should have been behind the ball, and things shifted a certain way, and now you're just kind of in it.
Yeah, the NCAA is very reactive, where in a lot of areas where they needed to be proactive, and one of those areas is with the transfers. Like they allowed the one-time transfer to happen, but they left the door open by saying, yeah, you know what? If you put in a waiver, maybe there's a chance that you could get you go play immediately somewhere else if you're transferring for a second time. That's led to a lot of challenges to those rules and a lawsuit that has opened the door to you can transfer as many times as you want, whenever you want, and that's just going to cause chaos. And honestly, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing for the student athletes to be able to do that. Change is hard.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You've lived in Tucson pretty much your whole life, right?
My whole life.
Your whole life. I've moved a couple times, but like, can you imagine like if you played at 4 or went to 4 different schools over the course of 5 years?
Casey Thompson's doing that.
Yeah. A lot of kids do that. And look, a lot of them are just looking for an opportunity, right?
Yep.
Chance to play. I can't blame them for that. Any regular student could transfer as many times as they want to, but it's just not as easy. We're talking about human beings with real experiences,
Yeah.
So.
All right, this one comes in from AZ Cats Go. Have you heard of any of the young players impressing the coaching staff during these late practices? I think the most interesting position group to me after this season is still middle linebacker. I mean, that was a big question mark going into last offseason because Jerry Roberts, the original starter, was gone. You're adding in Justin Flo. You're bringing in Daniel Haimuli from Washington. Now he's no longer a part of the program. Middle linebacker was still up for grabs pretty much all throughout the season. There was no really consistent guy in that spot. And now you got a trio of freshmen who are all 1 year in the system, 1 year a part of the strength and conditioning program. And I'm talking about Kamuela Kaiuhu, who's a freshman from Honolulu, played at Theodore Roosevelt High School out there. Tay Brown, who played at Chandler Hamilton High School, a prominent football program in the Phoenix area. And then Leviticus Sua, who is the most highly touted of those guys from modern days, the Trinity League Player of the Year. And he didn't get really any playing time this year. Kamuela and Tay, they were the guys who were getting some action at linebacker. So you have those 3 guys coming back. Johnny Nansen said that Justin Flo has been taking majority of the first team reps during these pre-Alamo Bowl practices. I would expect Justin Flo to start that game against the Oklahoma Sooners. And, maybe Justin Flo comes back and just such a dominant linebacker. I look at it like this. I'm not ready to write off any player after 1 year in the system, Lev, because we were all so quick, including me. I was so quick to write off Gunnar Maldonado. And look at the significant improvement that he has made over the course of the season. Maybe Justin Flo can be on a similar path to where something clicks with him and he's able to start becoming a playmaker.
Yeah, not everyone out there is a plug and play type of dude. You know, like it takes time. Middle linebacker, it's a pretty cerebral position.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that quarterback of the defense. Jacob Manu, the weak side backer, he really plays that role for Arizona. But there's a lot of, deciphering, and reading and figuring out where to go and what to do. It's not like, if you're a defensive end, primarily it's like either you're rushing the passer or you're trying to stop the run. If you're a cornerback, you're covering your guy in either man or zone, right? But those linebackers and safeties have a lot of decisions to make, and maybe it will take Justin Flo a year to really get up to speed. I mean, you can see the athletic talent for sure.
He's a freak.
He is
specimen.
Yeah, and maybe it's just sort of that mental side. So I agree with you. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's give him a chance. See how he looks in the Alamo Bowl. It's a good test. And then you continue to bring those young guys along at those linebacker spots. It wouldn't surprise me if they brought in one more veteran linebacker just to add to the mix, kind of a just-in-case situation. You never have too much depth in the front. Defensive end, same thing. I mean, they have guys who can play at both, kind of that cat position and the strong side defensive end spot. But as Jed Fish said the other day, can never have too many big bodies.
Okay, last one before we quickly talk about the Alamo Bowl.
Oh, I have one. After.
You got one?
I have one.
Okay.
It's a Christmas one. So,
okay, well, this one's a Christmas one, too.
Oh, okay.
Andy Blaho says, how come Arizona Athletics doesn't sell a replica of the Territorial Cup to fans, whether it's true to size or a small decorative one? Seems like a missed opportunity. Would love a Christmas ornament version.
Great idea.
Could we start a business and include Andy? Like Andy could take like 10-15% off the top, make Territorial Cup replicas and just start selling them. I don't know if there's like copyright issues there or whatnot, but sounds like a pretty good idea.
It does, especially for a school that needs money, right?
Oh, damn.
Wouldn't you like?
A Territorial Cup
wouldn't mind having a little Territorial Cup to put on a shelf somewhere, or Territorial Cup inspired Christmas ornaments. Great idea.
Or guest cups. Yeah, people come over.
Patent it, dude.
Stay out of the...
Trademark it right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this one comes from @UACatmandu.
Love it.
Do you have a family holiday tradition or meal? If so, what is it? We make fresh raviolis and sauce. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and BTFD! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So we go to my wife's parents' house on Christmas night, and we eat the tamales that the family has made earlier in the fall. Usually they're kind of the meat-filled tamales. Sometimes we make the green corn ones too. I have participated a couple of times in the making of the tamales.
No way.
Yeah.
The masa.
How about that? Yeah, all that. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, my wife's family has been in Tucson for like 100 years. So that's very much of a Tucson Southwest kind of thing. But tamales is the food that I would cite as the most traditional Christmas meal. I have also, my wife has learned how to make some Jewish foods for Hanukkah. Yep. I'm Jewish, she's Catholic, so we're a mixed faith family. But she will usually make brisket, kugel. I don't know if you know what that is, but there's a lot of different ways to make it. We make the noodle version. It's like cream cheese, egg noodles, raisins, and cornflakes, and you put that all together and bake it.
Interesting.
It's really good. And then she also will make the potato pancakes or latkes, but we just buy the ones from Trader Joe's and heat those up, and they're really good. So she doesn't make them from scratch. But so we have that for a Hanukkah meal at some point during December as well.
You guys light the candles?
We have you don't light the candles. It's little bulbs that you turn on. But yes, the menorah. Yes, we do that.
I love it, man.
Yeah. How about you?
Wait, hold on.
Wait, yeah.
Back to the tamales.
Yes.
Have you had one with a fried egg?
Yes,
over
of
medium
course.
egg?
Oh yeah. I've had tamales with fried eggs. I'm a big fan of the New Mexican style
Same.
of Mexican food. Like, I'm sort of like, if you put a fried egg on top of anything, it enhances the meal.
Good man.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I recently discovered that like 4 or 5 years ago. Changed my life. I'm like, why have I never had a tamale with a fried egg?
I discovered it when I first came out here. And my first real assignment, was the New Mexico Bowl.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Zach Rosenblatt and I were hitting all the best Mexican places in Albuquerque leading up to the game, and that's where I discovered that, as well as the sopapillas that they serve they just bring it out at the end of the meal without even you asking for it. I'm like, whoa, what is this? This is great.
Did you go throw a pizza on Walter White's house?
I did
in Albuquerque?
not. No.
Apparently, like the actual house that is used in Breaking Bad, they had to put up a gate around it because people kept coming by and throwing pizzas on the house. But my holiday tradition, it's something that we do every single Christmas. Our family makes cinnamon rolls, whether it's just the generic Pillsbury Doughboy, let's put it in the oven, or if we order them. Cinnamon rolls are like my family's thing for Christmas morning.
Nice. I like it.
Cinnamon rolls and coffee, and we watch the Lakers play. My favorite Christmas tradition.
Are the Lakers on the docket this year? This is a weird year because the NFL has 3 games going on Christmas because I guess it falls on a Monday.
Yeah.
So they're kind of trying to cut in on the NBA's turf.
There was always like this unspoken rule where it's like NFL, NBA, they're like, okay, you guys got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas. We'll just enjoy. Well, and now the
NFL doesn't care.
NFL's like, no, marketing opportunities. Move out of the way. But yeah, the Lakers got the Celtics. Should be a good one.
Nice.
But anyways, that's my Christmas traditions. Hope everyone has a great holiday break. Real quick, before we get out of here, Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this game, Lev? And just kind of how this game could potentially set up Arizona's offseason, have the Wildcats feeling good as a program. Not many teams in program history have won 10 games.
Oh, they become what, the third?
The third.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, it's like pretty much every year they win 10 games. So which team is more motivated? I would say Arizona. Which team has more of its roster participating in this game? Arizona. I would say Arizona. The only player Arizona is expected to be without is left tackle Jordan Morgan. Granted, probably their best player, but they knew that this was coming. Time to prepare for it. It wasn't a big surprise. It's not like they're going to be without their quarterback, which is the case for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So, Oklahoma comes into this game.
New offensive coordinator, too.
Yeah, I think they'll probably run the same stuff for the most part. Someone said, I think it was Johnny Nansen, or someone said the other day, like, they're not going to install a new offense in 3 weeks. They'll probably tweak it a little bit. But we're talking about, like, 8th nationally in completion percentage. Is that going to be the same with Jackson Arnold running the show as it was with Dylan Gabriel? I don't know. They also lost a lot from their running back room. It is Oklahoma. They'll have a lot of talent. It seems like their fans are going to show up for this game, even though they're kind of like, like Alamo Bowl, whatever. Maybe a little minor disappointment that they weren't in a New Year's Six game. But I think Arizona is the more motivated team. I think that getting to 10 wins is really meaningful for them. I think maybe a little bit of a higher scoring game than we're accustomed to this particular season with the Wildcats and how well their defense has played. But I think Arizona's going to win.
I think Arizona's going to win too because, like all the things that you just mentioned, the players that are leaving the program who have already left the program, they're not just losing depth, but they're losing depth at important positions. Like you're going to have a new quarterback, you're going to have new offensive linemen, guys who are preparing for the NFL draft who have entered the portal. There's going to be a lot of new faces on the offensive side of the ball for Oklahoma. And, thankfully for them, they have a lot of time to prepare for this game. And so they can maybe figure out their rhythm and become accustomed to each other. But I just feel like for Oklahoma, it's going to feel kind of like a season opener more than a bowl game for them. And there's going to be a lot of growing pains and a lot of kinks that they're going to work out. In Arizona, they got a lot of continuity because they got a bunch of players. That defensive side of the ball has been so huge for the Wildcats this season. We've seen in parts this year especially in the first half of the year, that when the offense wasn't going, the defense was there to pick up the slack and keep the team in position to win. And they haven't really shown any weaknesses this year. Why would they let up in the Alamo Bowl? So I think the defense is really going to answer the bell in this game, and I think the Wildcats are going to maybe force a takeaway or two and figure out a way to win this game.
They're going to also want to show out in front of a national audience. You know, I mean, there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on this game. And this is a huge opportunity for those players to show what they're all about, for the program itself to show what it's all about. It's an interesting point you made about having time to prepare for this game. I was on a video press conference with Toledo a couple days ago. You know, Toledo's coming out here for the Arizona Bowl, and Jason Candle, their coach, made the point that he was really glad that they were in a later bowl game, December 30th, because you can kind of get signing day out of the way and then focus on the bowl. Like if you're in one of those games that was last Saturday, you know, it's like everything's just sort of colliding, all the things. He said they would have lost a whole weekend of recruiting. You know, that this last weekend was a big recruiting weekend for a lot of schools, and if you're in a bowl game, got to go. I mean, you simply can't do it.
You're not there.
You know, so yeah, the NCAA needs to come up with some way to fix the calendar. I think just getting rid of the early signing day is probably the easiest. Just move it back to the way it was before.
But then it's hard because school starts early January.
Well, the mid-year guys can start. You know, I mean, if you're a mid-year guy, you can sign and get going.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something needs to change because December is just a cluster. You know what? Right now for the sport. With coaching changes, the portal, early signing day. Now that next year there's going to be playoff games that start in mid-December.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just not workable. So it helps to be in a bowl game that's on December 28th or December 30th, if you're in that position.
Before we get out of here, Lev, a lot of things have happened in the state of Arizona over the last year, especially in sports. Like, we were actually talking about this on Spears and Ali today. You got Bijan Robinson getting drafted in the top 10, becoming the highest selected Tucsonan in NFL draft history. You have the Arizona Diamondbacks going to the World Series for the first time in 22 years. Phoenix Suns made a big trade getting Kevin Durant. Like, Matt Ishbia, their new owner, was on the job for, a week? And then made a trade for Kevin Durant, or I don't even think he was on the job for 2 whole days, and he was already trading for KD. And then right here in Tucson, Arizona, you have the Arizona Wildcats, the men's basketball team winning the Pac-12 tournament, the football program going 9-3 and becoming bowl eligible for the first time in 6 years, and clobbered ASU. I can just go down the list. Clancy Shields, the Arizona men's tennis program, going to the Sweet 16. A lot of things have happened this past year, Lev. When you think about your coverage and everything that took place, what stands out to you?
Well, I would also point out that 2 Tucson high school football programs won state championships this year. How about that?
Yeah.
Huh? Talking about Sabino and Canyon Del Oro.
Yep.
Kudos to them. I would say 2 things in my world stand out the most. One is the football program's breakthrough this year, going 9-3, getting into the top 15 in the rankings. Then the other one is the D-backs, making the World Series kind of out of nowhere.
Kevin Ginkel.
My guy Kevin Ginkel from Arizona, who was part of that 2016 College World Series team, played an integral role as a 7th and 8th inning guy. For the D-backs, they came up a little short against the Texas Rangers, but making it to the World Series. I know a lot of people were very excited about that. Even around here in Tucson, people were like, oh, they drove up and they went to a World Series game.
Yep.
And that's just not, that is a rare and special opportunity that not a lot of people get to do. I think I've been to 1 World Series game in my life as a either media person or fan. Mm-hmm. And that was, Angels Giants in when was that, 2002 or 2003, whenever that was. So that was very cool and very special, and came out of nowhere. That was the other thing. We could kind of see Arizona football being good this year, maybe not this good, but man, no one thought the Diamondbacks we're going to be as good as they were down the stretch and in the playoffs.
A lot of great things have happened in the state of Arizona. Let's hope 2024 is just as exciting, if not more exciting. That'll do it for this episode of the Wildcast podcast, likely the last episode of 2023. We always appreciate you guys for listening to the podcast and tuning in and subscribing, rating, and commenting, and submitting your questions on Twitter. Twitter mailbag questions were a hit this year. We'll be sure to continue that in 2024. And for all coverage of the Valero Alamo Bowl between the Arizona Wildcats and the Oklahoma Sooners, go to Tucson.com and download the Wildcaster app. And for all coverage of Arizona basketball, you can find them there. Happy holidays, everyone, and Happy New Year.